Module 1.12, Reference Checks. So here we are at the very final steps where everything went fine through the process, good interviews, good tests, you're really confident about the candidate and you're about to make an offer, and then you want to do the last sanity check, that is reference checks. So what is it about? Usually reference, especially in Europe, you need the authorization, permission of a person to contact people for references. And usually you ask the candidate, can you give me 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on how many you need, references, the contacts, make them aware that we will contact them to just ask questions about your past experiences. And what the reference check reveals for me, it's more, again, painting more the overall picture of the candidate and if there's consistency of the character from what we have observed in the current interview process with what was the past. And I share here with you my questions that I keep very consistently from each reference check, and I have kept always the same, and why I have chose these questions. So I have 6 questions. First one, what was your relationship in the work context, and when and how long? So my first question is more introduction. Usually, by the way, these calls are 20 minutes. It's not a video call. It's just a phone call, just to ask a few questions. And this first question is really introduction. Remind me, what was the context you were working in? Was it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a year ago? Were you a direct manager? Were you a peer? Etc., etc. And the second question is more like going into detail. From a scale of 1 to 5, how would you technically rate the person and why? Where is he, she, they excellent at? So in this question, I really want to understand in the first part how the person working with them really perceived the technical skills and how strong they are. And usually, the reference have been very honest for the interview because I tell them, look, I really want to understand at this point who I'm hiring, and from hiring manager to hiring manager, you understand really well as well this same question, challenge. So I hope we can be transparent to each other and for the best in the end of the candidate, of also us. Are we seeing the same person? And from there, they just justify how they rate the person, why they are not a 5, why they are more a 3 in some cases, etc. And the second part of the question is more to understand really what they're really strong at. And for example, if for a developer I hear that what he's excellent at is more of the soft skills, it just makes me aware, okay, it's kind of what we saw anyway through the process, that the developer we hired is very good in the soft skills. Maybe it's not like the best developer in the world in the technical skills, but it doesn't matter. We chose that candidate for the soft skills first. So it's just to align, the picture of what we have observed through the interview with what the former manager or peers say. First question, during the time working with him, her, them, what have been the situation where it's been a challenge to work with a person? Describe the context, situation, and resolution. So really in this question, I really want to challenge also the reference to tell me how does it look like when it goes bad, when things are not working like perfectly, and what were the situation where the person was maybe not in the right situation, in the right mindset, or having problems. And what's behind this question for me is more, tell me how bad looks bad. What is the worst you have seen from this person? And it's not to dig in to find bad information about the person, but we all have our good and bad days. And I don't want to believe that no one has ever had a bad days, or, sometimes nobody is perfect. And I just want to understand how bad in this situation it looks like for this person. What are we dealing with? If, for example, if a person is anxious, how do they behave? Do they still, behave respectfully with others, or he went into a crisis that everybody felt really pissed, at the work. So it's really for me to understand, like, what are the bad days of a person. Fourth question, we have doubts on him, her, them about this. What has been your experience with them on this particular point? So behind this question is more through a process of interview with the peers, myself, we have observation, things we have maybe a bit of doubts. We don't know what it is about the candidate, we don't know them enough, of course, at this point, and we want to ask for reference. Look, we have noticed that, and to give a concrete example, we have noticed that this person can become quite anxious in some situations. They have mentioned it for the interview. Are you aware about that? Can you tell us more about it? How does it look like? And sometimes it matches in the reference, say, yes, I know that about this person. You really pointed it well, and explaining more the context and the situation and how we as a group and a team can help the candidate in this situation. So it was really a helpful question as well, to just understand more what could be the blockers of a person. And it's more than in an intent of understanding, so then we can help and onboard better and support the person in the development as well. And fifth question, we consider them for the position of, what is the position? Do you have any concern or advice to have a person on board on this position? And here again is my question as a hiring manager and to manager. What can we do to really help support? Because from the moment if we decide to hire this person, we want to give that person the best experience, be really there for them and be the most welcoming. And so how can we help? And this is a very, for me, valuable questions, because then I get more elements on how to make it the best onboarding possible for the person. And at last, which is pretty standard question for reference, would you hire or work with this person again? And depending on what they say, maybe, or absolutely yes, then it gives more as well the picture of did they have a good experience together and would they want to work with them again. But to be honest with this one, since the candidates choose their reference, then it is very likely that they would say yes to this one. So it's the previous questions that are actually more relevant for me.